Hello, friends. Dogs have been friends of people for many centuries. When living at home, dogs are people's friends that are fun to play with. But if they serve in the police, they must comply with the norms and follow commands in order to help their person. It turns out that people can understand what a service dog should specialize in when the dog is only 1 month old. Dog handlers never work by a template. Each dog gets an individual approach depending on its nature, and the handlers decide what's the best way to use the dog. However, if the dog turns out to be too friendly, then a career in the police force might not be in its future. Meet Gavel, the German Shepherd from Queensland, Eastern Australia. This dog was expelled from the police dog school because he was too friendly to work in the police. Yes, this dog didn't want to look for illegal drugs and catch criminals. He simply liked playing with different people, especially if they were to scratch his ear or belly. So what happened to Gavel and how his life turned out? Gavel was a very beautiful service dog, so he quickly got a new job, which was a much better match for him than the previous one. When the open day was being held at the Queensland Government House in Australia, Governor Paul de Jersey introduced Gavel to the attendees as the vice-regal dog and talked about his responsibilities. What does Gavel have to do at his new job? He's responsible for greeting the guests and tourists who come to visit the residents in Queensland, as well as for attending government meetings and coming to meetings with the governor of the state. In fact, having become a ceremonial dog, Gavel simply has to remain himself. To be outgoing, friendly, affectionate, and incredibly charming. Governor Paul de Jersey first saw Gavel in 2016 when he was just a 10-week-old puppy. The puppy appeared in the official residence of the governor, since it was there that he was supposed to be trained at the Canine Academy. A few weeks later, the dog handlers came to the conclusion that Gavel didn't have the skills needed to work in the police. He loved strangers way too much, preferring to play with them rather than help arrest them. So they decided to stop teaching the puppy, and he was expelled from the academy. However, by this time, the entire staff of the government house, including Paul de Jersey, had already fallen in love with the little puppy and became truly attached to him. Therefore, when the government learned that the puppy was expelled from the program because of his friendliness, he decided to intervene. In early 2017, Paul de Jersey approved a new position, the vice-regal dog, and Gavel was appointed to this position. By the way, the dog even signed a contract with his paw print which lists his duties: to meet and greet visitors, as well as attend official ceremonies, sometimes even wearing trendy dog suits. According to the spokesman from the Queensland government, Gavel quickly settled into his new position and became an important and incredibly loved part of life at the residence. Paul de Jersey often talks about Gavel's life on his Instagram page. Yes, Gavel definitely got lucky. What made him unsuitable for the police service allowed him to be very successful at a different position. Our next story is also about a police dog, although this dog's career in the police was a bit more successful. A girl named Sandra hated the area she lived in, but she couldn't afford to rent an apartment in a better neighborhood on her meager waitress salary. There were only two things that allowed Sandra to feel at least somewhat safe at home: many locks on her steel door and a German Shepherd dog named Bear. Bear was a retired police dog whom the girl was able to adopt thanks to a friend who worked for the authorities. This massive, mature dog may have been enjoying the quiet life, but he still remained sharp in dangerous situations. That evening, when Sandra was heading to the only ATM in her area, a rather unpleasant incident happened. The first warning sign that scared the girl appeared just around the corner. There were several guys who were clearly drunk. They were making loud comments about the even louder music. One of the guys noticed Sandra, and the rest immediately started making despicable jokes and comments about her. The girl got very anxious and felt a strong desire to run. She quickened her pace in order to get farther away from the unpleasant company. 2 blocks later, Sandra was about to breathe a sigh of relief when suddenly she noticed something strange in her peripheral vision. It was just an incomprehensible shadow at first, but then the flickering street lamps illuminated a silhouette of a man. Was one of those guys following her? Fighting her fear, the girl got to the ATM as fast as she could. She firmly held onto Bear's leash, and the dog was already alert. By the time Sandra got in front of the ATM, it was already clear to her that this person really was following her. A tall man in a leather jacket came closer, too close, and that was bad. She could smell his acrid cologne and the smell of cigarettes. It looked like one of her worst nightmares, and the mysterious dark figure was the main villain in it. Sandra started to panic. Everything the girl did from that moment on, she did out of the feeling of horror. She turned to Bear and uttered a single word: protect. The trained Bear was already alert, and upon hearing the command, he was instantly ready to attack the man. He turned towards the tall man, his whole body ready to pounce, lowered his head, and let out a long, deep growl, and then barked impressively. The man jumped back in surprise. Sandra could see him well now. He looked like a biker and was much older than the guy she saw before. The man looked from the frightened Sandra to the terrifying dog, ready to bite him at any moment. The man took a few more steps back and obediently raised his hands. "Sorry, young lady. I didn't mean to scare you. I just got distracted," he said, showing the phone in his hand. Sandra's fear began to fade away a little, but not enough to allow her to recall Bear. "You shouldn't follow girls like that," she said sharply to the man. He nodded in agreement and apologized. He explained that he was simply going to the same ATM. He also added that he wouldn't be able to sleep well if his daughters lived in this kind of neighborhood. Then he handed Sandra his business card and offered to take her home. The girl quickly withdrew her money and headed back, full of fear. She politely declined the man's offer to help her get home safely, but her intuition told her to keep his card. After all, you never know when you may need the help of a good person. Heading back to her apartment, Sandra looked at Bear. Her black and brown companion, always ready to do everything to keep her safe, was calm again. The girl pet the dog behind her ears and treated him to one of his favorite delicacies, which she always carried in her pocket. And Bear gently licked her hand in response. The girl thought how lucky she was to have such a faithful friend protecting her, and that she shouldn't see a potential enemy in just every person. The psychologists are probably right when they say that the world around us is exactly the way we want it to be. Someone simply lives and enjoys their life, while someone else doesn't feel safe anywhere and sees a threat at every step. And that's all for today, friends. Share your thoughts about today's video in the comments below. Like it, and don't forget to share it with your friends. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.